diys-by-dar. This is part 2 of my cabinet. We are maximalizing it. I really don't know if it's a smoking cabinet. I'm not sure. This is where I left off from part 1. I was getting ready to decoupage the areas that I left white with this beautiful Made by Marley paper. And this is the inside. I did finish it, and it is just stenciled with some random stencils that I had, as well as some redesigned by Prima stamps. So here is Mod Podge. This is the recommended glue for using Made by Marley paper. And I have a soft brush. I like to get that first layer on there and kind of press down and smear it. Not just lightly brush it, but actually put it down and smear it. And my last pass is just a light one to get any brush marks or anything off of the surface. I like to start on one end and I'll tap it down and get that first inch or two to adhere. Then I slowly work my way up the paper, getting any wrinkles out and laying it nice and flat. Jar, just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. I was having a little bit of a flashback from my mentor, who says, once you get this paper on, don't fuss around with it, just leave it alone. I'm going to go ahead and put my second piece on the same way. Start at the bottom, slowly work my way up to the top by smoothing the paper. And I think you also have to take into consideration what you're putting this on. What kind of surface is it? Is it porous? Do you have a primer on it? Because I think that changes how much paste you are actually really going to need to hold that down. On this one, on my very first one that I put down, it looked really good when I laid it. I didn't see any wrinkles in it, but as the time went on, I did actually see a few wrinkles show up. I will show you a close-up of the paper shortly. Here's some Annie Sloan chalk paint in Barcelona orange, and I am going to mix some bentonite clay with it to be my mixing agent, kind of like if you were using other additives to give you lots of peaks and valleys. Well, I made this pretty thick. It's almost like a paste. You can see it's pretty sticky, not even coming off of my brush. Well, my plan is to go ahead and get all these areas covered with this, and then once it dries, then I will take a putty knife and remove those areas so that blue will show from underneath. Now, I'm tapping this right up to my edge of my decoupage paper because that is the color that I'm kind of using as the focus color for the whole piece. That orange, yellow, and it has that beautiful red mixed in. There is how rough this is. That's how it looks. It's pretty chunky. So after 24 hours, this is my third scraper. And boy, this clay, when you mix that in there, it sticks. It really sticks. I had to be extremely careful. I didn't want to cut myself, but I had to work at it to really get some areas to show up with that blue. One thing it did do that was kind of cool, it left little like pocks in it, which were kind of neat to add to the overall texture. So there I'm at that top, and it's kind of coming off where I want it. I want some of them edges to show and let that blue show. It's all scraped, so that part has been completed. That was quite a job. Wear a mask, put it on top of something. So I painted some Scandinavian pink in that molding. I had like a half hour So that was all I could do because I didn't want to get into this part. I have some more Annie Sloan paint in Florence. And I am just going around and matching up some of the areas where this color is coming off of my little elephant. And there I have the Aubusson blue again, and I'm adding that into any of the areas to help match that up. And now I have the Scandinavian pink, and I'm going to add some of that. And this brush that I'm using, it is a really worn, awful looking brush, but that is the best one for doing something like this, because basically I'm kind of tapping and putting a little bit of paint or putting a lot more paint, and it just works really good for that. I guess maybe they call that scumbling. So I'm adding the orange back in, the Barcelona orange, but it's just the plain paint. There's no additive in it. Lightly going over and still allowing some of those colors to come up from underneath. And when I was all done with the 4 panels, I had this is just a random stencil that I had. And now I have the Annie Sloan paint in the color Arles. And all the panels are going to get the stenciling for the background. And even if I went up over the picture a little bit, I just went a little bit lighter with how much I pressed down through that stencil. My next stencil is just another random stencil, and I have picked this corner design, and I am going to put this in all 4 corners on all 4 panels. Now, I found this tiny little small stencil I had before that I had cut, and I put it on top of each of the elephants' heads, like in their headdress, because I needed to carry some of this blue color out into the other areas. So I randomly put that stencil in different areas to bring that color out just a bit. Well, now I need to take and doll it up a little bit here. This is a Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color Muscadine Wine. I did not have a posca that really worked well with this, so I had to get the paintbrush out and do all of them by hand. Then, when I looked at the blue stencils, they looked a bit plain to me, so I got the posca pen out in white, and I just went along and made small little dots all along to help them not look so flat and pop out just a bit more. Now I have some Aubusson blue, and I am using a roller, and I am going to get a Redesigned by Prima stamp ready. I believe it's called Bohemian Dreams. And I am going to stamp the outside edge of each of the corners on both sides. So this is going to be the design that I am going to add there. The really cool thing about this is if you mess up, it doesn't matter because it will fit in with the design anyway. Get your stamp down there, hold it steady, press each one down firmly, and then lift it up. And whatever you get, you get. If it's light, if it's dark, it really doesn't matter when you're working on something like this. It's just very forgiving. So tiny little mistakes, you really don't notice them. That's what makes it fun. Okay, the bottom is painted with my Scandinavian pink, and my top molding is painted with my Scandinavian pink. I'm not really excited about this so far, so I decided to just dry brush the blue portion with some of the Aubusson blue to see if that would help maybe define these areas a little bit better. It worked a bit, but I had to do something more with it. Here was the remainder of the stenciling that I did down the side, and on the legs I used the same stencil I used on the panels, on the legs, and it's starting to really shape up. We're almost getting there. This was quite a project. Okay, palette knife painting. I've never done it. I don't even know which way to hold this knife in my hand, but I'm learning. I'm learning on the fly. So I have the Aubusson blue, and I'm trying just to get some going up on these corners. And if I got really bad on a section, like where I really had a load of paint, I went back with the Scandinavian pink and just put a little bit of that in the middle. So here's one. Oh, there's two really big blue blobs right there. Then I did another one. So not too much you can do with that. You can't really spread it out. It doesn't move too much. So I just put a little bit of the Scandi pink in there. Here is that pull-out panel. I have the Barcelona orange once again. It is going to get 2 coats on each side. And then the top side, I will use the Arles paint again with that same stencil to pull that tray right back to the unit. Now, chalk paint lacquer. It is in matte. This is Annie Sloan lacquer. It's for interior and exterior. And I really like this for a project like this. You can put it on with a sponge. It works really well. It seals really well. The surface is really pretty hard after you put this on. I put 2 coats all over everything, but I did put 3 coats just over my decoupage paper. Okay, here is my paper, my Made by Marley paper. You can find them on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. They have a lot of stockists in the US. If you can't find them, go to www.madebymarley.co.uk. They use recycled paper. It will come in 3 different sheets with beautiful designs on them. I used all the elephants. And I had all of the moldings kind of left after I used that paper. Here is another packet of paper. I thought I might use this, but I didn't. It's just borders, and they're beautiful. And all the papers are the same. So here is those wrinkles I was talking about. And you can kind of see them right there. And they came up a little bit afterwards. So what I'm thinking, when you see ridges like that, there is too much paste under there. Now here is the other ones after I realized I had put too much paste on, and they're just lovely. They're nice and flat. You don't see any rippling or ridges. And another trick too, if you get like a little pucker on the outer corner, just sand it off. You're going to paint it anyway. All right, I'm putting on my magnetic closure. And this took me a little bit. I was actually sweating, but I wanted this door to line up, and it lined up perfectly. And it shuts just lovely with that magnet on the top of the other door. But you do see the mechanism there at the top. All right, let's get out the dark wax. Look at it. Looks so much better. I have to do it. And I have to grunge up some of the areas on the legs. So what I used was, I got my Best Dang Wax in Brown from Dixie Belle. And I'm going to go ahead and hit all these moldings again to make them pop a little bit more and kind of make them look a little more aged. So I just went around and more in a twirly motion and worked that wax in. And I'm not worried about putting clear wax on it because I already have a lacquer on it, and just wipe that off. This is a water-based wax, so you can clean your brushes up, and it will dry, depending on your environment, pretty quick. Mine's usually dry in like 24 hours. Now, I'm kind of putting some in the outside edge. You can see that transition where it looks a little bit darker. I'm just twirling a little bit of that wax in there. And then I'm going to go back with my fingers and I am going to kind of just massage it in because this area is still a little bit rough. So massaging it in helps it get in all the little crooks and crannies, and it just looks really cool that way, and I like it. And I had to do all the way around the ones at the bottom as well. Here comes the superpower, the gold liquid leaf. God, I love this stuff. I can usually just work out of the cap. That's about all you need. And I have like a little small stencil brush, and you don't need a lot. Now you're going to see me just go tap, 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 tap. I'm tapping because I just loaded my brush up. And if I just went right at it, I'd have a spot that would just have like really bright gold. And I want to spread this out so it doesn't look so quite brilliant. So it has a little bit of a wear look to it. And I just go around and I brush it all on. Time for the knob. What did I pick? Plain gold. Went with that. Oh, that's what I started with. And look at it now. How cool is that? Well, this project took me a couple weeks, but I really love how it turned out. I really let myself loose on this one. Like and subscribe, and I will see what I can come up for next weekend. Thanks for watching.